Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Relix, and today we are going to go over Season 7, Episode 12 of My Hero Academia. And if you guys saw the episode, you guys know it was another great one. A lot of action, a lot of good information given to us that, answers some questions from the previous episodes. Obviously, if you guys have been with me since the beginning, you guys know this is a spoilers review, but if you guys have not seen the episode and you don't want to be spoiled, please do not watch any further. Again, we're going to go over everything that happened in the episode, so be prepared for that. So that's the warning. But let's start off with the hero of the episode, which is Mirko. And if you guys have been watching, you guys know that she is my favorite hero of the entire show. Bakugo being my favorite character, who just got killed last episode, and that was a really devastating moment for the show itself. So I was crying. I told you guys I was crying about that, and I made a lot of predictions what's going to happen in this next episode and things like that. And of course, like I said, we got some answers to some questions, and of course I'll go over some of those things as we go along. But Mirko is the hero of the episode. Arguably, you could say someone else could be, up there as well. But I felt like a lot of the action surrounded around her and what she was doing, as well as the sacrifices that she was making in order to, do all the fighting for everyone else. So that's why I chose her. And so far, we have no repeats except for Star and Stripe in the first 2 episodes, so I actually took note of that. I didn't realize that until just now. So no repeats as far as heroes of the episode. So I think it's only just that we go with someone else new. Not that I'm doing it on purpose. So let's start off with a recap of what is going to happen in the first few minutes of the episode. Deku is actually still on his way. We get to start with him. He's flying over the ocean, and he says he's not going fast enough, that he needs to get there as quickly as possible. Obviously, we see the result of him not being in the coffin in the sky is Bakugo ended up dying. The other heroes there are being beaten up critically. That includes Best Genius, Mirko, Edgeshot, Sun Eater, and Nejire-chan, as well as Bakugo. Those are the main fighters. And then, of course, Lemillion showed up in the last episode, so he also now joins the fight. So, they need to... Deku needs to get there as soon as possible, because obviously his power will allow him to apply substantial damage to Tomura. And, obviously I think that's the end result that we'll probably get when we... continue on with more episodes. Obviously, we have people whose powers are like Mirko. She has increased, physical capabilities, so she's able to hit hard and stuff. But as we know, Deku's capabilities are like far beyond that, and that's why Deku is the reason why he needs to be there and be able to be the one to take Tomura down. So Deku's still flying over, but as he's flying over the ocean, we get to see something in the distance in this picture, this last view before the opening credits. Clearly, that is, you can see in the very center of the screen, there's some black dots, and I know it's probably a little hard to see. Even I can't make out what those are. I was thinking to myself, that clearly is not the coffin in the sky. It's not like the coffin in the sky is destroyed, right? And why would they go into the future and then back into the past for the whole episode without revealing anything? So this made me think this isn't the coffin in the sky, rather it is Star and Stripe pilots, her co-workers. They probably flew out to Deku and are going to transport him to the coffin in the sky as soon as possible. That is my assumption. We actually don't get a explanation for what this is, which is one of the reasons why I have to deduct points, by the way. I will go over it as we go along, but I am deducting points for some of the things that happen in this episode. Like I said, we got answers to some questions, but we also got some more questions that I'm left thinking, scratching my head like, what does this mean? And this is one of those moments that wasn't explained in this episode, but will probably be explained in the next episode at the very beginning. Because as you guys, and like I said, we're going to talk about the entire episode, so you know what happened in the end. Deku actually did show up at the coffin in the sky at the very last scene, and I'm assuming that whatever these things are, which I'm assuming are the jets, they transported him there, and in the very start of the next episode, it's probably going to do a flashback to this moment, and they're going to transport him. So that's my assumption, but as far as telling us what right now, they should have showed them in the background or something. I don't know. It just would have made a little bit more sense. So we move on, and we get to see what happened in the last episode. Clearly, Bakugo's death is leaving an impact on the other heroes. You can clearly see in Eraserhead's eyes that he is saddened. His student literally just got killed in front of his eyes. Phantom Thief, he's there too. He's obviously keeping the Tomura's quirk deactivated. His God, I can't even think about it. Any case, Tomura's quirk, I can't. Hold on. Hey, oh god. Decay. It is Decay. My apologies. It is keeping Decay from working. And then, of course, you can see that as a fellow student of UA, he is obviously, I would personally say he'd probably be traumatized by this event. I mean, they are still kids in a matter of speaking. They're teenagers. So clearly this is probably going to leave an impact. And I'm surprised too that the fact that, just because Manuel is there, giving him capability to water his eyes and keep him hydrated, that really shouldn't stop someone from blinking necessarily. So I'm getting a little off about that, just because Phantom Thief isn't trained with the quirk itself, Eraserhead's quirk. So I'm just a little concerned about how he's keeping his eyes open this entire time, with even under all this emotional stress as well. But that's just a minor thing. I'm not even going to nitpick that. That's not really minusing points from anything. I'm just kind of maybe a little bit unbelievable, because he's not trained with the quirk. But we get to see Bakugo's death again. He is lying there on the ground, clearly dead. As we saw in the last episode, his heart was totally destroyed. We're talking punched through his chest. There's a hole in his body. He's gone. There's nothing that anyone can say that will keep him alive. We also get to see Lemillion's reaction to Bakugo's death here. He is clearly under stress that, he could not protect everybody before Midoriya could arrive. That was his goal. He said that in the last episode. We also got a recap quote from this episode as well, that was his goal. That was his goal, to protect every single person until Deku arrived. And unfortunately, he could not. And so that also leads into this whole episode about him too, where he can't do anything. He feels powerless. Meanwhile, Mirko also gets taken hostage. The growth, is starting to split more and more, as we saw in the previous episodes. Not only is it just hands and fingers, but now they're starting to develop mouths, eyes. The whole growth that's coming from Tomura is starting to adapt and evolve into something greater. And now we're able to see that these fingers are able to stretch out thinly and, wrap around their opponents. And Mirko, you can see in the very bottom of the screen as well, Mirko's arm is actually being detached from, or her equipment, I should say, is being detached from her mechanical arm, which I think is kind of a funny addition to the animation right there. I noticed that on the first watch, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny. That's a really good detail to keep the moment going. But she is clearly taken hostage, and it's not a good situation for her. We also get a flashback to the moment where she had the opportunity to actually stop Tomura from becoming what he is, now, a bad guy. He could have died had she been one step faster, as she puts it. And unfortunately, she could not, get to the laboratory fast enough to stop him from becoming what he is now. And that was when she started to get injured and stuff. That was when she lost her arm and her leg. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it. And then she gets this really nasty looking face as she's being held hostage in front of Tomura, which is also kind of funny that he doesn't just kill her right there. Clearly his goal is to beat all of them and then escape, but he clearly doesn't show like he has the capability to just outright kill everybody for some reason. But yeah, while he's holding her there, he's saying that it's not your fault that you couldn't stop me. There were other heroes. You guys all just didn't plan good enough, and didn't execute good enough to beat them, to beat the villains. And he also tells her that she wasn't the most pathetic hero compared to probably all the ones who died during the last season, and or the other guys who ended up losing, just getting defeated, unconscious, all that stuff. Obviously, Mirko was one of the heroes from season 6 that probably did some of the best work as far as battling, and we know that she took on a lot of high-end Nomus inside the laboratory. So that's something that she needs to keep in mind, that this is why this is why Bakugo died, because other heroes failed to win in the past, and some are now hiding. They're retired. They don't want to be heroes anymore. They're scared. And so now all these kids, these teenagers from UA, are the next frontline forces, and they're putting their lives at risk. And unfortunately, adults like her, Mirko, are failing to protect them. So it's just something that Tomura is trying to get in their heads and make them feel like they're shit. So it's just something interesting. Nice little side conversation there. I think that's a little bit of good detail to add into the anime, and it's not exposition where it's told to us from from the third person. It's actually told from the villain's perspective, that Tomura understands that the adults are failing and the kids are needed. They are needed as new heroes. So we get to see Best Jeanist also trying to repair Bakugo's heart, to no avail, of course. There's nothing he can do. I mean, first of all, there is a massive hole inside Bakugo. I mean, you can clearly see there's a black hole right in the middle of his chest. And as we saw, and we know from this episode, his heart is totally smashed in. Like, there is no coming back from that. And so, it's kind of disappointing to see that Bakugo is dead. However, I am a little bit disappointed that Jeanist is trying to repair him. I mean, I know he kind of has like an obligation to try and heal him, but at the same time, it's not something that he should be focusing on. Clearly, Tomura is the bigger threat and the bigger priority. He should be trying to, stop him with everyone else. We also get to do a little side plot from this episode. That's the one thing I actually mentioned at the end of the last episode, is when Tomura said that this is our story now, and I mentioned the "our" was in all caps. It actually gives insight to us on the other locations that we've seen so far, and one of those locations is where Dabi was fighting everyone else, and we now get to see that shining light that Dabi had in his chest is actually him utilizing Shoto's new ability for himself. And this is one of those points where I had to deduct points. I don't like this. I think this is a pretty cheap escape route for Dabi. This took Shoto, weeks to develop this technique, and all of a sudden Dabi just says, "Oh, I decided to try and copy it," and all of a sudden he's alive. He clearly got hit by Shoto. He clearly got beaten, and yet he's totally unharmed, and this power just suddenly comes out of nowhere. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. However, we do get to see that with this new power, his flames are as strong as ever, if not stronger now, probably, due to the fact that Onima and Kido, both are burned, and I'm assuming they are burned to death. We clearly see from these pictures that Kido is the bottom left guy. He is clearly burning in pain, and then of course on the right side we see Onima, who is completely singed to a crisp. There is no way they should be alive. If they are alive, I'll minus even more points from this review. Honestly, there is no reason for them to be alive. Especially since they technically don't have quirks that, negate flame, techniques. So they should be dead. And then, of course, Burnin is still alive there. She is actually... I had to cut off the picture, but she is actually in front of Shoto and Ingenium. So that's happening there. Then we move on to... we actually get Dabi, the one who says it. He actually says Skeptic. He calls out his name. And we get to see what Skeptic's up to. Part of Redestro's army. He is actually trying to hack into the Coffin in the sky. And his plan is actually succeeding somehow. You guys can see Skeptic is in the top left corner with all his computers and all that stuff. Trying to do all of his wizardry on the computers. And then in the top right, he's using satellites. There are 3 specific satellites shown in the show. I don't know if that's significant, but, I don't really care. At this point, this is a side plot that kind of didn't make sense because this is all that they did with it in this episode. Obviously, we should probably get more information in the next episode. But as far as this one is concerned, they showed this scene real quick. The satellites were successful. You can see in the bottom left corner, there are errors inside the Coffin in the sky. He has successfully hacked his way into the system. Now, what is his goal? I don't really know. They don't really say what his goal is. Just the fact that he is going to work for Tomura and, do what he needs to do. And then, of course, we see that Mandalay is distressed because she finds out that they are being hacked. However, again, like I said, this actually stops here. Nothing comes from this. There's no other mention of the hacking throughout the rest of the episode. So this is one of those plot points that just kind of like, they threw it in our face and then they just dropped it for the episode. A little disappointed in that. So I wish they kept on going with that. Even if it's like just totally deactivates the bear and then it's all of a sudden Tomura's growth just starts falling off the coffin and just into the water or something. I think that would have been a cool scene if that was the case. But obviously that didn't happen. So we also get a recap going into the Gunga Villa area. As I predicted, All For One did use Eri-chan's quirk. We know that he had some kind of capsule that he injected into himself, and that allowed him to actually reverse all the damage that had been done to him, and he is actually returning back to his youthful days. Bottom left picture actually shows Dr. Garaki and his final wish for All For One, that even if he is captured, this is his trump card. This is the one and only, apparently, capsule of Eri-chan's quirk that will totally reverse him. Totally reverse All For One back into basically non-existence. As we know, Eri-chan's quirk basically turns back time. It reverses organic development or something like that. And with her quirk, All For One is actually not recovering damage, from the damage. He's actually getting younger. As Endeavor actually mentions, All For One actually does look significantly younger than when he was, I guess when he fought All Might. So as time goes on, he will eventually fade into non-existence because he will return into, an infant and then die, apparently. At least that's what he stated. And we get to see this final scene here where he is just... A, he's fully naked, by the way, so he kind of does something in the next scene. But B, he is undamaged from the final attacks that Endeavor and Hawks did in the last episode. We also get to see... Garaki's final wish. He says that even if he is captured, he left this mask and equipment for All For One to use, and to basically continue his efforts, and he is behind him all the way. So I think that's significant for Dr. Garaki, considering that he is one of the biggest brains behind the entire story of My Hero Academia. So I think that's pretty nice that he gets one final like major plot convenient point for himself. But you know, it all makes sense. To be honest, it all does make sense, and I think this is a great trump card for All For One, because he is not supposed to be beaten by the likes of Endeavor, and of course, he is the biggest bad guy, so obviously he can't die just yet. So we continue with the scene. He actually lands on the ground, and as soon as his feet touch the ground, he actually is so fast that he goes from the top left corner, where the heroes are all staring at that spot, to the top right corner of the screen, where all of a sudden their capes are missing. You can clearly see the difference in the two pictures. All three of those heroes are missing their capes in a matter of a split of a second, maybe even a quarter of a second. It was instantaneous. Honestly, that was probably one of the things I had about this episode, is the scenes move so fast. Even me just pressing the spacebar to pause and resume my playback, I could hardly capture anything that looked good because it was so fast. But yeah, in the bottom left picture, you can see him kind of strutting his stuff. He's using all of the heroes' capes to cover himself. All the while, he is stealing the girl's quirk. We clearly see that he has one hand wrapped around her entire neck, and her quirk is being stolen. She clearly says that she feels her quirk is leaving her. And then, of course, in the bottom right, Hawk saves her from his grasp. However, looks like her quirk is already gone. She is now just a regular civilian, and she cannot do anything. These heroes were not named, but we can clearly see what they kind of do. Either way, it doesn't matter. I think these are just kind of like generic heroes that they wanted to throw in there just to give face to, the situation. After that, we move again to another location, this time moving to America, at the White House, where we actually see Commander Agpar. By the way, I didn't realize it before. It's actually an homage to Admiral Akbar from Star Wars. That's pretty funny that the showrunners would do that. But hey, I think it's nice. I think it's creative, and I think it is a nice little a nice homage to Admiral Akbar, because he was a great general in the Star Wars universe. But moving on, Akpar is actually being disciplined for his actions with Star and Stripe and the Tiamat missiles. It was not his call to make, and basically now, because he had done that, the U.S. government believes that Tomura will come after them, come after America, after Japan is defeated. And so Akpar is saying that if they wait until that happens, then there is no stopping Tomura and the villains. They will win, and they will hold power forever, and they need to act now. However, the U.S. government believes, including the president, believes that, they're trying to keep good terms with the villains, that when Japan falls, the U.S. will be their allies, hopefully. And Akpar does not agree with that. He then goes on to this monologue about how kids watch adult pro heroes be heroes, and then those guys pass it on to those kids when they grow up, such as All Might to Star and Stripe. And then, of course, with the sacrifice of them, Star and Stripe passes it on to the next generation. And again, that's a normal thing for anything like involving powers. And I think this was a nice touch to slow down the anime just a tiny bit. And she does pass along the torch to the next generation. And then we also get to see this scene lead into Edgeshot, who then appears just above Bakugo's corpse. And we clearly see he is, he is completely ravaged. I mean, look at him. This is probably the first time I've ever seen Edgeshot totally beat up. I mean, all the heroes here are totally beat up, as we've seen from the past episodes. Clearly, he is probably like on his last leg, as is everyone else. And speaking of Akbar's, passing on the torch, he takes the ultimate sacrifice and says that he will save Bakugo's life. We actually get a nice little flashback of the two of them, Best Genius and Edgeshot, from when they were at UA. And I think Best Genius was the club president of whatever club they were part of, and they were partners, basically best friends, which I don't think that was ever mentioned at an earlier point throughout the anime. So seeing this is a little nice touch to show how close these two are, even though A, they're not like on the same team, B, we never really saw them work together, closely. So to see that they were kind of like best friends in the past and they understand each other now, I think that's a nice touch. But overall, we get to see that Edgeshot actually is going to make the ultimate sacrifice and basically restore Bakugo's heart by A, stitching it together, and B, becoming his actual heart. He is going to transform his body into threads that will be able to form a new heart for Bakugo to use. At least that is the understanding that I got from the episode. And in this moment, we can see that he is transforming his body, going into Bakugo. From the bottom left corner, we actually see him explain that he has as he stated, a bubble from Wash, the hero Wash, and it will automatically cleanse his body as he enters Bakugo. That way there's like no infections, he's clean. He will be able to, return Bakugo into a normal state while sacrificing himself. This is one of those points where I feel like if Edgeshot is able to survive from this, then I have to go back and minus another huge point from this episode out of my overall rating, because we clearly established here that he cannot return to his human form after doing this, right? If he stops being Bakugo's heart, Bakugo should die. So Edgeshot cannot return to life. He will die in this situation, in a matter of speaking. I don't know if he dies, but he clearly will have to be Bakugo's heart. So that means he should die. So it's a sacrifice that I hope remains constant, and he does not come back unscathed. So, but if he does, I will minus a point for that. But he basically stitches up his heart, and he even announces it is CPR from the inside. We actually get to see some blood start to burst out of the hole in his chest, and he's trying to revive Bakugo. The whole episode, it's him trying to revive him. But just before he did this, he actually told everyone to try and do their best. Specifically, Mirko, he said, while she was held hostage still, by the way, to do her best. To keep, I'm going to quote it, keep trying. Even if only your head is left, get your teeth into him. And I thought that was actually a very strong quote, because that was the first time he's actually yelled something. Usually Edgeshot is a very soft-spoken guy. He's very calm and prepared for any situation, but this was one of those moments where he actually exclaimed at the top of his voice, telling Mirko to do something specific, and that is to never give up, to keep trying, to make sure that she wins, even if it costs her basically her life, basically every piece of her body. And Mirko does agree. She does start to try and break through. And then she actually eventually does. Even though Tomura clearly had a hold on her, she breaks out. And we get to see this nice wham, effect. And I thought this was an awesome kick. She does kick him hard, but you clearly see he's in pain. However, according to him, he doesn't really feel it too much. But we get to see a nice crazy Mirko face. I thought this is one of the reasons why I think she's awesome, is that she is just dedicated to the moment, and she does whatever she can to get it done. However, after seeing this moment happen, we actually get to see that a piece of the growth bites onto her actual arm, her right arm, which is still her arm, not the mechanical side. And in doing so, she pulls apart from the growth, kicks Tomura one more time in the head, and rips her arm off. So now she has no left arm, no right arm, and no right leg. And I'm like, in this moment, I was thinking to myself, what are you doing to my rabbit? Oh my goodness. I was so sad because she is my favorite hero, and clearly she is probably gonna die by the end of this show. And I'm like devastated to see that. So Tomura is weakened. He clearly states that. He says that, while he's not exactly feeling all the damage, he is feeling threatened. And it all started because Bakugo was blasting him with, his attacks, and Mirko's been hitting him around. Everyone's working together. So he feels not damaged, but threatened by these quote-unquote extras, where he shouldn't be. He shouldn't have to worry about them, and yet he has to worry. He does have to keep his guard up. Meanwhile, Mirko is actually getting wrapped up by Best Jeanist's, threads. Squeezes around her arm so that it stops the bleeding. Her arm is clearly ripped off. There you go. A little disturbing, I know. And then we get this nice little picture here. Again, this happened in the matter of like a quarter of a second. And I thought it was a great freeze frame, by the way. This is a crazy Mirko right here. I was like, oh my god, perfect picture. I would love to have used this as my thumbnail for the video, to be honest. However, clearly a huge spoiler. I mean, you can see that Mirko's just totally beat up, and then she's involved in action, so clearly I could not put this as the thumbnail, but I so wanted to. She is clearly just hanging in there and giving her all. I love this freeze, by the way. But she does go in and gives as she puts it, Luna Rush. Just like her strong attack, Luna Arc, when she had her legs. Now she turns this into a new attack where Lemillion actually supports her and blinds Tomura, because Tomura was swinging his growth at Mirko, but at the last second he blinds her because he can phase through, and in doing so, Tomura miss, although that was a huge miss. And not to mention, Mirko did exclaim, "Where are you looking?" So he could have hurt her, but he does get beat up by Mirko's Luna Rush. Bottom left screen, he gets hit in the face, but bottom right screen, every single dark circle patch on his body is actually some kind of puncture, some kind of hit into his body. So clearly Mirko got a nice bunch of hits in, and then that's great for all of them. Then we get to see Mirko. She's hurt. We can see what's happening with her. Clearly she's damaged, but she's confident that she did a great job. We get to see Sun Eater and Lemillion, who are involved as well. Obviously both are damaged, Sun Eater is damaged, but Lemillion's just kind of hanging around there. Genus is also injured, hanging in there. Nejide-chan's injured, hanging in there. Everyone's injured. Everyone's just trying to hang on, wait until Midoriya gets there. It is crucial that they hang on until then. And I think it's kind of crazy to think that they're all just on the brink of death, and yet they keep going. But this is the kind of stuff I do want to see. And I think when we eventually go to the other locations around Japan that are taking place, I hope to see just as much action and blood and, to be honest, losses as we are seeing here, which is part of the unfortunate part, because I do think at this point, I do want more people to die, because again, Tomura was supposed to be the biggest bad guy, right? He had the chance to kill Mirko while he had her hostage, but he didn't. So would kind of like to see if they could keep going with killing some heroes off, just because it is kind of the big war arc, right? Or even All for One. Technically, if he was able to move that fast to steal the capes off the other heroes, probably should have just, put the capes on himself, although he shouldn't really care if he's naked or not, steal the quirks of those heroes, and kill them. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So I think the show's a little bit too easy on the heroes here. But we get to see that after all the beating that Tomura took, something inside him is awakening, and even though he's feeling like, I keep destroying them and they keep coming back, he starts to unleash a new power for the growth. And we get an exposition from God, I can't remember all the heroes' names. President Mike, that the growth takes the form of whatever is needed in the moment, and thus the reason why the fingers and stuff was the main part of the growth was because that he was reaching out for power. And then, for example, it grew mouths to get rid of the poison. Well, now it's unleashing faces. It's unleashing heads from the growth, as well as starting to form defensive arms and hands that will protect his body from taking more damage, as it has been. And even after all this, Mirko and Lemillion are looking upon his new form, his new transformed form, and thinking, what the heck? What more do we have to do to stop this guy? And in doing so, Mirko charges in. Again, nice little quick run up right into the body, and we get to see that this fails. Again, just like the other scene from right to left, we also get to see Lemillion was there too, trying to catch Mirko. However, Tomura just swats her away with a fist, with a growth fist, and she goes flying off the screen. And these scenes right here, they all happen, again, within like half of a quarter of a second. Like, I could not press my spacebar fast enough to catch it all in motion. This was a super fast scene. In fact, the middle frame, you don't even see it in live action. Like, there's just no way you could have saw her body fly across the screen. That's how fast this was. That's how fast these freeze frames went. And Lemillion is shown that he could not catch her, and he cannot do anything. So Mirko is now out of the fight. She is completely beat. I mean, her two arms are gone, her leg is gone, and she is completely beat up. She's out. Then we move on to the others, and Tomura starts with Sun Eater, who, by the way, before he gets hit, he calls out Mirio, and then gets pummeled to the ground in the bottom left picture. And then moving on, Tomura moves on to attack Nejire-chan, who uses her power in the air, throws a bunch of rocks at her, and she gets kind of like what happened to Midnight, except it's not concrete, it's just rocks and debris. She gets just totally, total collision with all those rocks and is sent flying out of the sky. And Lemillion is just powerless to do anything because he has no real strength. As strong as muscles can be, he can't actually do anything to Tomura, as we saw in the last episode. He can't do anything on his own. So the only thing he can do is watch his friends get hurt while he does nothing. So now the big three are basically out. Lemillion feels useless. We get this nice little picture here of him thinking, shit, I am completely useless. I don't know what to do. Even Genis uses his powers, and we can clearly see Tomura just rips right through them. And Lemillion still can't do anything. We also get to see the backside of Tomura and how the growth is protecting his body with all these fingers and hands, as well as his legs. He's this really big, giant monster now. So now we get a nice picture of Lemillion looking upon his friends, his fellow companion heroes. Genis, at his last leg, he is trying to protect Bakugo at all costs, as well as Edgeshot, who is trying to bring Bakugo back to life. Mirko, as we saw, got knocked away. She landed in a tree. She's out, obviously. Sun Eater, down for the count. And Nejire-chan, I think, gets the worst of it. Look at that giant finger that's trying to poke her. Oh my god. I was like, what the heck? Why did they have to add that? I mean, why her? Why did she get this giant finger that just happens to be next to her? I thought that was kind of weird. I don't know if that's like, if that finger is supposed to mean something. I don't know, but I thought it was very ominous, to be honest. It's kind of weird that this random finger is just chilling there next to her. But either way, you can clearly see all 4 of the other heroes are down. Obviously, Edgeshot is inside Bakugo. So the only hero left is now Genis, who is standing over Bakugo's corpse, and Lemillion, who is powerless to do anything. The heroes here have basically lost. But we actually continue on, and we get to see Genis now is about to be hit by Tomura, and Mandalay actually relays that they need to wait 2 more seconds, stall for 2 whole seconds. Genis says that's 2 seconds too late. There's nothing he can do. Tomura's going to hit him within 1 second, and he's probably going to die because of it. Then Lemillion, in this 2 seconds, by the way, which ended up being like a whole minute, Lemillion has an actual idea. And this idea is, I mean, clearly from his face. If you guys know him, you guys know what he was going to do. Even I knew what he was going to do. I was thinking before Mandalay even said anything that there was only one thing he could really do in this moment. And it's something that he's done the entire show so far. And he basically remembered what his master said, Night Eye. Again, you guys get the hint from his reaction here. Night Eye is laughing. We didn't get to see this. We didn't get to see this in the past. Night Eye laughing. And obviously, what do you think that is? Bam! It's a peach! So Lemillion phases through the ground, pops up between Genis and Tomura, and says, "It's a peachy keen." And clearly, look at his face. The desperation on his face is just crazy. I mean, obviously Genis is not in this frame, so obviously it wasn't as close as they, put it out to be. But, and that's a big but, we can clearly see it got the job done. By the way, look at Tomura's form. It is huge. Look at that arm. It is massive. I think that's crazy. Yeah, that's probably a lot of power. But it did do the job. Tomura stopped right in his tracks. And you can see the desperation on Lemillion's face. I mean, look, he's crying. He's like freaking desperate that this works. And it actually did, as we see in literally another quarter of a second later. Deku shows up. And by the way, this freeze right here, absolutely amazing freeze frame right here. I think this is cool as hell. A very cool look for Deku. And boom, we get a nice smash attack, sending Tomura off balance and into the air, off the ground. Not by much, but it was a beautiful hit. I believe Deku actually slingshotted himself into Tomura. Like I said, it happened in like literally 1 whole second. The entire scene happened in 1 whole second and led up into this final scene to end the episode. So if I remember playing back through the thing, I believe that he did slingshot himself using 2 of the pillars when the barrier was dropped by Mandalay, and he was able to project himself at Tomura. And again, this is one of those things that I felt like need to be explained right here. They should have showed like the jets or something flying in, even if they have to like Genis like looks up and sees the jets fly over or something, because clearly I think that is going to be the reason why Deku is here now. He was transported by those jets and was dropped off, and he is coming in hard and ready to fight as soon as possible. At least that is my prediction for what will happen in the very next episode at the very beginning, because we do need to continue this plot right here. I do want to see what's happening at other locations, because we now had the chance to see the other locations. However, this is way too important. This needs to be established right now. So that's how the episode ended. Ended with Deku's smash attack. Again, just like Mirko's wham, this is another great finishing, by the way. Double S smash. There we go. That's beautiful. I love this picture, actually, by the way. It's very nice. So that is the episode breakdown. Let's see. Missed points. Coffin hacked. They dropped that plot point. I don't know what happened to that. Dabi copied Shoto, minus points for that. Don't know how he's able to do that considering that Shoto was developing that specific move for Dabi, or to fight against Dabi, for the past so many days, if not weeks. So it's not something that Dabi should have been able to do instantaneously. Jumping from place to place a little too fast, but again, like I said, it's trying to tie into the last episode where Tomura said it was now our story, the villain's story, and how they're making their comeback. It's like an homage to Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back. Now the villains are striking back. The heroes, as I mentioned in the last episode, the heroes have had it all good so far. They've been beating up all the villains. They've had no real big troubles. No one's really died until the last episode where Bakugo died, and now all the villains are making their comeback. Dabi's alive and well, and he's going to be able to fight now. All for One is getting younger. He is back to his peak form, his top performing form. Obviously, Tomura has reached a new transformed phase, and he is now inspired because Deku is there. He can steal his quirk now. And then, like I said, if Edgeshot does survive this, moment where he is trying to save Bakugo's life by becoming his heart, then I have to go back into this video and minus points. But as of right now, I enjoyed this episode thoroughly. Again, when you feature my favorite hero of the entire show, not my favorite character, my favorite hero, obviously I'm going to enjoy it a lot. Again, it minuses points for some things, but it was still an amazing episode. I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. That is awesome. That is great on my 1 to 10 scale. 10 being perfect, 9 being awesome, 8 being great, so on and so forth. It was just an amazing episode. I loved it, and I loved all the action. I loved all the scenes. A little bit too fast at times, but it was still pretty cool to see. Obviously, a lot of good freeze frames from what I saw. I just wish I could see them in real time, a little bit longer. Not just, you missed it, too bad, go back and watch it, and go pause the whole video every time you have to try and get a picture for it. I enjoyed every bit, and I'm glad that some people are being killed off, such as Kido and Onima. Again, those are two that should be dead now. They clearly got burnt to a crisp. Only one who could survive that was someone like Dabi. So, and even then, if All For One didn't find Dabi like that when he was burned in the forest, he would have died. So, Onima and Kido should be dead. Edgeshot should be dead. I wouldn't even be surprised if, some of the heroes at the Coffin in the Sky start to die off, like right there and then. I mean, they are completely beat up. There's no hiding it. Miracle's gonna die. Let's be honest. My favorite hero's gonna die. Oh no. As far as anything else, I'm just gonna say, I hope they continue with this plot point here in the Coffin in the Sky, at least throughout half the episode next week. It's just something I really just hope they don't just skip over. I want to know what happens here. Now that Deku has arrived, I want to know what's going to happen. What is his reaction to seeing Bakugo's corpse on the ground? That is what I want to see. Is it going to be like a Naruto situation where he just goes berserk? He is absolutely obsessed that his best friend just got killed, and he couldn't do anything to save him, and it's just going to ignore everyone else, unleash all of One For All power, and just destroy Tomura. I want to see if that's what happens, but we'll see what happens next episode. As far as anything else, clearly All For One mentioned that his goal now, while he is reverting back to an infant state before he does die, I guess he should die, right? His next goal now is to get to Tomura and make sure he survives, because basically Tomura is, as of right now, All For One in a second consciousness. So how is he going to get there and save Tomura? I don't know. Who knows how many quirks or what quirks he has, up his sleeve, but that is what we are expecting to see in the next episode, I think, because they wouldn't leave that hanging, considering how fast he was to steal the capes and attack the one girl and steal her quirk. I do think that he should be fast enough to be able to like either teleport somewhere or even just, I guess in this case, jump to the location. Japan's not exactly a big place, so he should be able to do it with his quirks. And Dabi, to be honest, I could put that aside for now. We can see he's alive, okay, but finish the plot points with the main villains first. And then if you have to leave it off after that, at least show some of the action between Deku and his reactions with Bakugo versus Tomura. And then half the episode later, maybe then go into, I don't know, Gigantomachia's location or the aquarium with Gang Orca. What's happening at that location, because we got to see that location when Deku was transported there, but we haven't seen it since then. That was like what, 5-ish episodes ago now. It's a long time. We're starting to forget about that situation, what's happening there. And again, if time catches up, I don't want to all of a sudden see Froppy and Uraraka just show up at the Coffin in the Sky and say, yeah, we won, and then do a flashback episode. No, I want to see how all of this progresses at the same time. I just think it would make more sense and more cohesive with the show itself, because everything happening in real time would just be better than if you just skip ahead and say, yep, they won automatically. Because if they show up at the Coffin in the Sky, then they're not going to die when they do a flashback. Even no matter what damage they do take, they're not dead. So I just don't want that to happen. I don't like it when shows do that. So if you have to do it, just show finish the Coffin in the Sky, show Deku's reaction, half the episode gone, go back to the aquarium, or go back to Gigantomachia's location, or go, so on and so forth. Just don't just go place to place to place to place and continue to not finish those places, actions. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. What did you guys think of this episode? Again, like I said, 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. And I can't wait for the next week again. And by the way, as I mentioned before, no repeat heroes except for the first 2 episodes. And I think my average for now on the season, if you were to take all my ratings, I think my average is like a 6 or 7, which is 7's a good on my scale. So that's fairly good. I'm actually very happy about that. I'm enjoying this season a lot. So hopefully it keeps up. I really love everything that's happening. All the action is actually really good. So if this keeps up, I will actually be very happy. Let me know what you guys think, though. Are you guys enjoying the show? Hit the like button, comment down below what you guys think, and of course subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Stay tuned for next week. And again, if you guys have been watching my stuff, thank you very much. Really means a lot to me. And then of course, feel free to let me know what you guys think so we can discuss it if you want. Again, I don't follow the manga. I just watch the anime as it comes out. Obviously, last week there was no episode because of the Olympics. And hopefully, I don't foresee any other distractions from posting the episodes every weekend now. So hopefully we get an episode every Saturday moving forward. No stoppages. So at least that's my hope. We'll see. Until then, I guess that's it. Yeah, great episode. Loved it. Can't say it enough. And yeah, go Mirko. Don't die. Don't die on me. And looks like Bakugo's going to be alive. Don't know if I want to see that, but at the same time, he's the main character. Of course, he's not going to die. So yeah, we'll see what happens with him. But that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. And I will see you guys. Oh, have a great week too. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.